Hi, I'm Suri, a therapist, a mom of four big feeling kids, and now a grandparent of 9. In the last video, we walked through how emotions unfold step by step and how our interpretation plays a huge role in how we feel and what we do. Today, we're going to look at a skill that helps us slow that process down even further and figure out if our emotional reaction fits what's actually happening. It's called Check the Facts, and it's a DBT essential. Now, why do we need this skill? Here's the deal. Emotions are real. They show up for good reasons, but that doesn't mean that they're always accurate. Sometimes we react not to the event itself, but to the story we're telling ourselves about the event. So if you've ever said, I know I overreacted, I just felt it so strongly, that's your cue that this skill can help. So let's go back to the teen texting example to show you what this looks like. So quick recap. You text your daughter, hey, when are you coming home? She reads it, doesn't respond, and an hour passes. Your first thought is, she's ignoring me, she doesn't respect me. That thought triggers anger, and the next thing you know, you're snapping or sending a harsh message. But here's the question. Is that thought 100% fact-based? Or is it a story built from emotion, past experience, and interpretation? That's what the Check the Facts skill helps us figure out. Let's walk through the 5 steps of Check the Facts, step by step, using that same example. Step 1, describe the prompting event, just the facts. What actually happened? No interpretations, no assumptions, no judgments, no beliefs. What actually happened? I texted my daughter asking when she'd be home. I noticed 2 blue checks appear on the screen, and she hasn't responded in an hour. Notice we're not adding, she read the texts. She's so disrespectful. She's doing this on purpose. We're staying with just what's observable and objective. Step 2. What's your interpretation or belief about this event? In this case, belief might be, she's ignoring me. She doesn't care. She's so disrespectful. She only cares about herself. So moving on to step 2, what's your interpretation or belief about this event? And in this case, the interpretation is she's ignoring me, she doesn't care, she's so disrespectful. And that's where the story begins. That's what drives the emotion. Now, step 3, ask, is this interpretation based on facts alone or assumptions? Well, let's test it. Do you know for a fact that she's ignoring you? Could there be other explanations? Maybe her phone died. Maybe she's talking to a friend. Maybe she saw the message and meant to reply, but forgot. Maybe she didn't realize how important this message felt to you. So what we can see is that the interpretation is one possible explanation, but not the only one. From there, we move into step 4. What emotion are you feeling? Does it fit the facts? So here the mom is feeling angry, and that makes total sense. If your child is intentionally ignoring you in order to be disrespectful, feeling anger sounds perfectly appropriate. But if it's just a possibility that she's intentionally ignoring you, not a fact, then your emotion may not entirely fit. Now, that doesn't mean that the emotion is bad. Emotions are automatic, they're neurobiologically wired, but it may mean that it's out of proportion or misdirected based on the actual facts. Now, moving on to step 5, what action urges come with that emotion, and do they fit the facts? So you might feel the urge to scold her or withdraw or punish or escalate. But if you're not 100% sure she's done something wrong, those actions probably don't fit the facts either. And this is your opportunity to pause, check your assumptions, and choose a response that's most effective and more aligned with the facts of the situation and with your values as a parent. That's the power of the pause. The point of this skill isn't to gaslight yourself or pretend that your emotions don't matter. It's to get really curious before reacting. It gives you a moment to say, wait, what am I reacting to? What actually happened here? What do I know for sure? And what else might be true? And that pause is everything. That's where you find your wise mind. So what happens when the emotion does fit the facts? Because sometimes anger will be absolutely appropriate. If your child, in fact, did see the message and intentionally ignored you in a pattern of defiance, anger might well be justified. Or if you texted, they ignored you, and then stayed out past curfew without checking in, yeah, anger makes more sense. Check the facts won't always make emotions go away. It helps you refine them, adjust the volume, and choose the response that actually serves you and your child. So when emotion does in fact fit the fact, you do want to ask yourself, is this going to be effective? You want to ask yourself, will acting on this emotion be most effective? If the answer is yes, go for it. If the answer is no, pause and choose an effective response. Let's take a look at another example. So in this scenario, you tell your 8-year-old to put on their shoes so you can leave for school. Instead, he crawls onto the table and starts making silly noises. Your initial thoughts or interpretation is, come on, we do this every morning. He's 8. He should be able to handle putting on his shoes without a meltdown. Or, this is ridiculous. We're going to be late again. Why is this so hard? And these thoughts reflect frustration, they reflect urgency and a sense of helplessness, not malicious intent. Now let's walk through checking the facts. Step 1. What are the facts? What actually happened? Well, I asked my child to put on shoes, number 1. He got under the table and started making noises instead of responding. That's what actually happened. 2, what's my interpretation? Well, my interpretation is he should be able to do this by now. He's choosing not to listen. We're going to be late again, and it's because of him. Now, step 3, is this based on facts or assumptions? Well, there are some facts here. He's not putting on his shoes, but there are also some assumptions, like that he can consistently regulate in the situation or that he's doing it on purpose. Maybe there are other possibilities. Maybe he's anxious about school. Maybe transitions are really hard for him. Maybe he's dysregulated and this is his body's way of expressing it. Now, step 4, does the emotion fit the fact? Well, you feel frustrated, stressed, maybe even resentful, and those emotions make perfect sense given the context, but they might be amplified by your belief about how he should be handling things, and those are interpretations. What's the urge, step 5, and does it match what's happening? Well, the urge might be to yell, drag him out, and threaten consequences. But if really his misbehavior is stemming from dysregulation and not defiance, those responses are not likely to be effective. In fact, they're probably going to escalate, not help the situation. So in that case, let's look at an alternative response. Use emotion regulation first. Pause, remind yourself, he's not giving me a hard time, he's having a hard time. And then say something like, I see you're having a hard time getting started. Want to race me to the door? Or offer some regulation with connection. Looks like your body's telling me it needs some help. Do you want to do this together today? Again, taking a look at how the facts match up with your reaction and looking to see, do the feelings match the facts? When the feelings match the facts, go with what your action urge tells you to do. When the feelings do not match the facts, choose a more effective solution. Let's take a look at one more example. In this situation, your 10-year-old screams, "You don't love me," and slams the door after you say no to buying a toy at the store. Now, your initial interpretation might be, she's manipulating me with guilt, she's so selfish, she's trying to punish me for setting a limit, and it's natural in that situation to feel angry, hurt, resentful. Now, the action urge that comes with that might be to withdraw, to criticize, to become aggressive, to hurt her back, or say something like, if you act like this, you will definitely not be getting anything next time. Now let's check the facts and see whether the emotions match the facts of the situation. So step 1, what happened? Just the facts. Well, I said no to a request, and my child yelled that I don't love her, and she slammed a door. Step 2, what's my interpretation? She's manipulating me emotionally. She's being cruel to get her way. She's selfish. Step 3, is that based on fact or assumptions? And the answer is, those are all assumptions. Do I know for sure this was calculated manipulation? I don't. Is it possible that she felt rejected or disappointed and lashed out impulsively? Possible. Is she dysregulated, speaking from emotion mind? Also possible. When kids feel powerless, they often say things that they don't mean because they don't yet know how to handle disappointment or boundaries. Step 4, does my emotion fit the facts? Well, anger or hurt makes sense if this is deliberate defiance or cruelty. But if it's dysregulation and emotional immaturity, those emotions may not fully fit. Now let's take a look at what's my urge. Step 5, does it serve the situation? Well, my urge might be to punish or to withdraw. But what she likely needs more effectively is co-regulation, not more disconnection. So an alternative response might be pause, regulate yourself, and come back to it later. And at a later time, you can say, it sounded like you were feeling really disappointed earlier. That doesn't mean I'll change the answer, but I'm here. I get it. It's understandable, and I love you even when you're upset. That's emotional leadership, how we teach our kids to respond to big feelings too. Now, in the next video, we're going to talk about a skill called opposite action. Because once you've checked the facts, sometimes you realize that your emotion does make perfect sense. And sometimes you realize that emotion that makes sense isn't helping. And you need to do the opposite of what that emotion is telling you. And that's what we'll talk about in opposite action, another powerful DBT skill that helps you respond with intention, even when emotions are pulling you in another direction. See you there.